The Skoda Octavia has just been updated with a new look and lower pricing. So is there a catch, or is this the best family car that you could consider if you're looking for a wagon or a liftback sedan? Well, stay tuned and I'll tell you what I reckon about it in this review, including the best alternatives and all the other stuff you need to know, like warranty details and safety specs too. So stick around, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell, and let's get to it. Just like lots of other models in the Skoda range, the brand has renamed its entry-level version of the Octavia to be Select, and there is a bit of a difference in terms of the standard spec compared to the previous models. And the liftback model is now $1,000 cheaper. You'll see the pricing for it on your screen. That's drive-away pricing nationally. And you've also got this wagon model, which is the more practical choice in my mind, but it does cost a little bit more money. Now, in terms of standard specs, you are getting plenty of really good kit with this car. Things like LED lights and LED daytime running lights. They've got that new design front end. There's also 18-inch alloy wheels, a space saver spare wheel. There's dynamic indicators. You get rain sensing wipers. There's also roof rails on top for the wagon. You get fabric trim on the inside, which is a very nice design. There's leather wrapped steering wheel, paddle shifters. There's a 10.25-inch virtual cockpit digital instrument cluster and a 13-inch infotainment screen, which is a new screen for the Skoda Octavia. Gets an 8-speaker sound system, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, dual zone climate control, push button start, and plenty more besides that. But just keep in mind, it doesn't have the really clever keyless proximity unlocking. So it's got these little tabs on the door handles, but they're not actually sensors to unlock the doors. It is a shame, especially for parents, because once you've had that, you don't want to give it up. And unfortunately, with this version of the Octavia, you do have to give it up, but there will be more versions of this car coming soon, including a Sportline model and the RS. So if you want to know more about the Skoda Octavia, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell, and you'll get updated when I do my reviews of the different variants coming out. But let's talk about some alternatives to this car, because there are some good ones. All right, so you're thinking sedan or wagon. You want it to be, well, big, practical, comfortable. You could go and have a look at the Subaru Outback. It is a wagon, a lifted wagon, in fact. Comes with a bunch of different versions available, including a high-spec new turbo version, which I've just done a review of. And the entry-level versions are much cheaper, but the high-grade ones do have a bit more fruit and a bit more fun factor in terms of the drive experience. The Outback does have some ground clearance advantages over some of the other models in this segment because it is basically an SUV, but it is that wagon profile. So it could be a really good choice for you. Alternatively, if you're thinking big sedan, well, the Toyota Camry is a bloody brilliant one. It has plenty of space, lots of practicality, and hybrid powertrains as well, which is setting it apart in terms of the market space because it's got really, really amazing real-world fuel consumption. Hit the link in the description below and see what I saw in terms of my testing in the new generation Camry, and I was really impressed, like super duper impressed by that car. And finally, something that's maybe a little bit more mature in the market, the Mazda 6. Now, it's available with a petrol or a turbo petrol model. The turbo petrol is definitely the one to go for, and it comes as a sedan or a wagon as well. And it starts at a really low price point compared to all of the players in this segment, but it tops out in the 50s. So I think it could be a really good choice for you if you're okay with older tech and some older features inside, but the Mazda 6 could be a really good one. What do you think? Would you choose any of those, or would you choose this? Let me know. Obviously, this one is the wagon, but they are both the same length, which is surprising. The liftback and the wagon both measure up just under 4.7 meters in length, which is big. That's about the same size as a lot of mid-size 7-seat SUVs. And look, nothing's really changed in terms of the dimensions, but I think it still looks like a pretty nice looking car. The redesign at the front, well, it just modernizes things a little bit. And like I said, the biggest issue I have with it is this keyless entry system that isn't. It's got the sensors, but it doesn't have the active keyless unlocking, so you have to use the key to unlock the car. I know that might sound like a serious first world problem, but it is a serious parent problem, trust me. The rear end, yeah, I think it's still a pretty nice looking backside, and let's check out the boot space and see what we're working with. No electric tailgate on this base model car. That will come on one of the high-spec versions in the package with the keyless unlocking. It does have a massive boot. Let's just do this very handy little thing. You just press this down you can slide it back, and you press it again and it slides back even further. I love that. That's beautiful design. The space in here, 640 litres for the Wagon, 600 litres for the Liftback. So it's not a significant disadvantage if you are considering the Liftback over the Wagon. It's just that the measurement is up to the seat back. So you've got a little bit of extra height if you do choose the Wagon. Now it's got all the simply clever features, I guess you'd say, because that is the tagline, isn't it? It's got shopping bag hooks, it's got remote releases for those seat backs. There are nice little storage trays on the side. Same on this side. There's a net system too. More shopping bag hooks. They really do understand shopping. There's also a ski port in the back and a reversible cover as well. So yes, you can have it as a rubberized cover if you need that. So if you've got wet things or dirty things, that's a good one. And then carpet on the other side. And underneath the boot floor, there is a spare wheel. It's a space saver spare wheel, but anyway, doesn't matter. It's good to have a spare in any instance, I would say. And yes, the practicality on offer here is excellent. Now, let's take a look inside and see what it's like. Right, so the interior of the updated Octavia has seen one significant change. It's this thing right here. The new 13-inch touchscreen media system is a massive step up from the existing screen, and it does have a lot of functionality to it as well. Let's take a little look, shall we? So obviously we're on wireless Apple CarPlay. There is Android Auto as well. Let's go back to the home screen, where you will see that there's something called LoRa as part of this. It's the voice activated control system for this product range. You've also got built-in sat nav if you want to use that rather than using the maps on your phone. And you can also scroll across here and you can see who I've been talking to, and also the vehicle status and plenty more besides that. So there's also a drop-down function here as well, so you can set up some favorites if you wish, like so. So if you want to be the sort of person who has lane keeping assist off, you can add that to your favorites up here, and then it will be off at the touch of a drop-down screen. You've also got a whole heap of different things that you can configure to be up on your favorites menu as well. It does have heaps of great functionality, but there are some things that I think still could be better. So for instance, you do have a climate bar down the bottom, but you don't have a fan controller down the bottom. Now, I don't know if I am maybe overactive with my fan control, but I just tend to fiddle with the fan speed a lot. So I have to press this climber button down below so I can get the climber screen up and then adjust the fan speed as such. So that's something you want to keep in mind. You don't have heated seats in this vehicle either. There's no heated steering wheel too. So there are a bunch of things on this screen that you will get used to. It just takes a little bit of time to learn, but there are a couple of other buttons down here that you will get used to. Your demisters, your lock button, and you can also check out your camera view by hitting the park button there. So yeah, that's good to see. And I think that generally it is a pretty usable screen, and I've gotten used to it pretty quickly over this time I've been testing it. There is another screen in front of the driver, a 10.25-inch virtual cockpit display. And if you're wondering, you can actually turn off your lane keeping assistance on that screen as well. You just hit this button on the steering wheel and then you hit that one and it will turn it off. And there's a bunch of other menus and so forth on this screen. If you wish to play around, you can change the view. You can have a look at what your average has been, and you can also have different displays. So I think it's a pretty nice usable screen to get used to. There's paddle shifters on this model. You've got your wipers on that side and you've got your blinkers and lights on that side. There's also a light panel down there, and as you can see, there's ambient lights in this model too. I really like this design in terms of the trim up here, and this kind of reminds me of like a marble finish. It's an interesting trim. Might not be to all tastes, but I really like the seat trim. The cloth finish is beautiful. It's got these leatherish bits on the sides as well, so it feels really comfy. They're cushy, but they might not be as clean as some other finishes that you could pick, like fake leather or real leather. There are bottle holders in the doors as well. They are lined, which is great. You've got a wireless phone charger down here, USB-C ports. You've got the now traditional stubby little shifter with the park button, electronic park brake, a pair of cup holders, a key holder spot there, and a center console bin, which is a little bit small, but it's good enough, with a nice soft padded area on top. This steering wheel is nice to hold as well. It's got a perforated leather finish and it's nice and grippy to hang on to in the corners. And oh, forgot to mention, you've got a cruise control stalk down there as well, so you can adjust your set speed and your distance and stuff. It takes a little bit of learning, but I guess that's the theme with a lot of the cabin, but I think you will get used to it pretty quickly. It's not nearly as much of a science experiment as some other cars out there. There's vanity mirrors with illumination, hello, and you've also got a overhead sunglasses holder, an auto dimming rear vision mirror, and lights up here as well, which is good to see. One thing that this car doesn't have is connected services, so there's no SOS function to call emergency services if you're in a crash, but I don't think that's honestly that big of a deal. Oh, one other little thing, it's got a USB-C port up there, which is perfect if you're going to run a dash cam just to sit in front of your mirror there. It means no messy cables everywhere. Yes, attention to detail. And of course, it is a Skoda, so it does have a few of those really smart little features. There's a bin in this pocket here, which is really handy. And over here, you'll find a hidden umbrella, which is also super duper handy on wet days. All right, let's jump in the back and see what it's like. Okay, so this seat is set for my driving position. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall. I've got lots and lots of knee room, lots of foot room to wiggle my feet around as well. And headroom is also pretty good in the back here. You've got grab handles on the sides. There are lights as well if you need them. Might just leave them on so you can see what I'm doing back here. And I think that it does have super duper practicality. You can fit 3 people across if you want to, but as you can see, I've got my daughter's child seat in here, and well, this has been our family car for the week, and she's really enjoyed going in the Skoda. So she's really also liked the fact that you've got multiple map pockets here. So we've had toys and dollies and other stuff in there all week pretty much. Yes, it's got directional air vents as well, been very handy during this hot week of testing. And there's a little storage tray down there, USB-C ports, and there's another storage tray here, but that's removable if you don't want that in the way. It does cover up the transmission tunnel intrusion, which does eat into the space a little bit if you are planning to use this as a 3 across vehicle, but you will be able to do it. It's actually pretty practical, this car. There are ISOFIX points in the window seats and 3 top tether points as well. You've got a flip down armrest with pop-up cup holders, and yes, you also get that ski port as I mentioned. I just can't open it. There we go. Yes, there we go. So that's proof it is a ski port, people. Yeah, so it's a very, very practical vehicle, super duper family friendly. You've got big bottle holders in the doors as well, and they are lined, which is bloody brilliant. It's just such a nice thing because it stops things from rattling around. And if you have kids, you know that lots of things rattle around in the back. There's nice fabric trim on the doors too, soft elbow pads, and it feels pretty bloody nice back here, I have to say. Super duper practical, comfortable as well. Under the bonnet of this version of the Skoda Octavia is a 1.4 litre turbocharged petrol engine with 110 kilowatts and 250 Newton meters. Those are pretty familiar outputs from Volkswagen Group products. And it's also got an 8-speed automatic transmission, a torque converter auto, not a dual clutch auto. So it's different to some of the other Skodas available, and it's front wheel drive only. And if you want a bit more power and a bit more torque, it might be worth waiting for the higher grade versions, including the RS, which does have a whole lot more grunt. This one, well, it can still do 0 to 100 in 8.7 seconds, according to the brand. And on your screen now, you'll see the towing capacity for the Octavia models. Right, let's go for a drive and see what it's like. Close the bonnet first, obviously. For the past week or so, my partner and I have been sharing this as our family run around for the week, and we've both really liked it. She bloody loves it, thinks it's fantastic because it's got a less intrusive transmission than some other Volkswagen Group or Skoda products, because it's an 8-speed auto. It's not a dual clutch automatic transmission, so that means that when you come up to a standstill, for instance, there's no hesitation, so you can just basically put your foot back down and it gets away very smoothly and quickly. Dual clutch automatic transmissions in some other products in the Skoda range can be, well, slower to react. It does make it a little easier to live with because it's not laggy when you come up to a standstill and need to get going again. That's one of the beautiful things about this very simple powertrain. I mean, it's still a downsized turbo petrol engine, still got plenty of oomph for a family car. It gets along pretty well, and I think that it's nice and smooth as well. The 8-speed auto at times can get a couple of things wrong, but I don't think that it's a deal breaker. It's just not quite as precise at speed as the dual clutch automatic is, but I think that honestly the payoff is that you don't have to worry about hesitation from a standstill. So I'll just replicate that for you at this intersection. Stop here, no engine start, stop to contend with, so we just put the foot down and we are away. Yes, it's front wheel drive, and 250 Newton meters through the front tires means that, well, you can have some struggles for traction at times, particularly if it's been wet, which it has been the last couple of days here. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind, just to be gentle on the throttle when the surface isn't dry. But it's got fantastic tires as standard as well. Pirellis, they are very, very grippy tires and very confidence inspiring in terms of the cornering ability of this car, which, I mean, it's brilliant. It handles great. It's got terrific steering. It's got a beautiful balance and chassis control to it, and it's super comfortable too. Like, it's got a beautiful ride to it. It's really, really impressive and ultra urban friendly, and also great on the highway. The only real thing that you need to keep in mind is that on the highway, it can be a little bit noisy over rough surfaces. So where I live in the lower Blue Mountains, I take the M4 a lot, and some of the M4 is a really coarse chip surface, and it can be boomy in this cabin because there's so much space between the glass. So I think that it is maybe something you need to keep in mind if you do a lot of open road, rough road commuting, but you will get used to it otherwise, I would say, and the stereo is pretty good to get over all of that anyway. But there's also the lane keeping assistance, which I've been turning off occasionally and leaving it on occasionally. It's not frustrating like some other lane keeping systems, so it does push the car around a little bit at 60 Ks or over, but I don't think that it's to the point where you get frustrated by it. And that's one of the beautiful things about this Octavia. It doesn't have as many of those really annoying safety systems that just give you the shits. This car doesn't have that. So as a result of that, it's been super enjoyable to spend a week with. My partner and I were both really, really impressed, and she actually said to me, well, if it had electric seat adjustment, because we've got a big height difference between us, it would be probably the ideal car, as well as the keyless entry thing, because that annoyed her too. Right, let's talk about fuel consumption then. Is it good enough in that regard? On your screen now, you will see the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the Octavia, and it needs 95 RON premium unleaded fuel to be able to achieve that kind of, in theory, consumption. But if you're wondering what I've seen across this week of testing with two different drivers with different ways of driving, but also doing the sort of stuff that you'll probably do, running around town, going and picking the kiddo up and going on the highway, doing a bit of commuting, that sort of stuff. Yeah, the number we've seen is pretty impressive, I would say. Not hybrid-like, but still very, very good for a family car, in my opinion. You tell me what you think in the comments though. Some of the big updates for this revised Octavia include the safety technology on offer. So it still has a 5-star ANCAP safety rating that is valid from a few years ago, but it's also got a bit more tech and spec. Things that are included as standard across the range include autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, there's lane keeping assistance and advanced lane keeping as part of the adaptive cruise control system, which also now features stop-start technology. So it will stop and start and steer for you in some situations in traffic jams, which is really quite handy. Now, it doesn't have any of the annoying safety systems either. So it doesn't have a driver monitoring camera and it doesn't have a speed sign recognition system that beeps and bongs at you. So it's pretty easy to live with, but there is a blind spot monitoring system, rear cross traffic alert, you've got front and rear parking sensors and a reversing camera as well. So it's pretty easy to live with, but no surround view camera. That's probably the only omission really. There are plenty of airbags included in this car. Dual front, front side, rear side, a front center airbag and full length curtain coverage as well. Heaps and heaps of airbags. In Australia, Skoda is still the only European brand that offers a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is excellent. Now, there's also a choice of a prepaid servicing plan for 7 years too. You'll see the price for that on your screen, and that does make a bit of sense if you want to save a bit of cash, and you can roll that into your finance repayments if you wish. Speaking of which, there is a finance program through Skoda, and you can go on their website and see what it will cost you to repay this car on a weekly basis, and you can even set your guaranteed future value if you decide to do that, so you'll know what the resale considerations are before you get to the used car market, which is really bloody promising, I would say. Plus, there's roadside assistance included with this car too, so it's pretty promising in terms of the on-paper ownership experience, but I have heard some mixed findings when it comes to what it's like in reality. If you're one of those people who doesn't want a family SUV, you want a wagon or a liftback sedan, this could be the best choice you could make because it is bloody brilliant to live with. It's super practical and easy to drive too. And apart from some of those little omissions in terms of the specs, like the keyless entry and the no electric boot and the no electric seat adjustment, I think it could be a fantastic choice. But if you want some of those features, it might be worth waiting for the higher grade versions coming soon. Tell me what you think about it in the comments section below. Would you go for an Octavia? Do you own one already? What's the ownership experience been like? I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell, and I'll see ya when I see ya.